Hello you guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Marijn and welcome to the first video in 2026 on my channel. I'm so excited to start a new reading year, a new year in general, but also to read lots of books this year. I'm super excited about that. But before we start with reading new books, let's actually look back to 2025 and do a little wrap up of how my reading year went, what were the prettiest books I read, the best books I read, what books were I disappointed with. Let's go through all of the books and do some honorable mentions as well. I'm going to do this by answering the questions of the end of the year book tag. I think that's what it's called. So basically I think around 20 questions that we're going to go through, and by doing so we'll talk about memorable books and books that I kind of want to forget about and just special books this year, special reads. This year has been pretty special for me reading wise, but also life wise. I moved, I bought a house with my soulmate, and yeah, a lot has changed, but I actually managed to keep reading quite a lot, a little less than the 2 previous years. I finished 97 books this year. It might become 98 because when I film this, I have 2 more days in 2025, but I think it will stick at 97. So I read 97 books this year. We spent a lot of time doing renovations in our house, moving, so I wasn't able to read as much, especially in the beginning of the year, but still it was a great reading year, so let's go through it. The first question of this tag is actually what was the most disappointing book, but I don't want to start with a disappointing sad question. I want to start with my favorite book of the year. So I think most of you know it by now because I've mentioned this the last 2 months because I already knew that this was going to be my favorite book of the year. But my favorite book of the year is A Language of Dragons. I got this gorgeous edition, by the way, so this is brand new, of Language of Dragons from Fairy Loot. It is stunning, but yeah, this is my favorite book of the year. I've mentioned it so many times. This book is just a masterpiece in my eyes. I normally don't like books set in history or set in war, but this was just so good because it was so easy to read, but at the same time there were a lot of ethical questions answered about war. Which side are you choosing? Are you choosing for the greater good or for your own benefit and your family's benefit? All those choices you have to make in times of war. The female main character, Viv, has to go into a program to translate dragon languages to understand what dragons are saying because they might play a part in the rebellion. So they need to know what the dragons are saying. And she's selected to go through that program and to understand the dragons. And I thought that linguistic part where they're trying to translate and structure the languages of the dragons is so incredibly interesting. So I really like this. The second book is gonna come out January 2nd. I'm really excited to read that. But if you haven't read A Language of Dragons, I love it. I love it. Good to know though, it is a young adult. So I'm normally not the biggest young adult fan, but in this book, I really liked it. But good to know. Okay, and now I'm actually going to follow the list of questions. And the next question is, what was your most disappointing read of 2025? And immediately a book comes to mind, and that is Bunny by Mona Awad. This book was just so incredibly weird. I can't even tell you what happened, but sometimes people were splattered everywhere and animals, and then someone was a human, but then not. And then it turned out to be an animal, and like 90% of the time, maybe 99%, I didn't understand what was going on. It was so weird. And I was warned by one of my friends that read it before me, and she's already said that it was such a weird book. But I bought it and I wanted to give it a try anyway. And I wouldn't recommend this book to anyone. Normally when I don't necessarily like a book, I don't often say that I wouldn't recommend it because it's just not for me. And maybe it is for someone else, but this book I would just not recommend. It was so incredibly weird. So sorry, but Bunny is a hard no for me. Hard no. The next question is, what was an underhyped book that you read this year? And I kind of want to say Spark of the Everflame, but I don't know if it's truly underhyped because it is a pretty well-known book in the fantasy sphere, but I do feel like this book isn't talked about as often as other big romanticises. To be honest, I haven't read the other books in the series yet, but this first one was everything that I want in a romantasy. Good plot, easy to read, interesting love, storyline, plot. Yeah, it just had everything that I wanted in a romantasy. So I feel like this book should be talked about more often, but it isn't unknown, I feel like. And then a different book that is still very underhyped is Undone by You, an indie published romance book by a Dutch author who writes in English, Rochella van Buren. And she just released her first romance debut in October. and I got the chance to read it before it was published as an ARC, and I really, really liked it, especially for a debut. It was really good, and it reminded me a lot of the Windy City series and also the King of Sin series by Anna Hwang, that last one the most. Just the tension in this book, so easy to read, so entertaining. Yeah, made me really like this book. I gave it 4 stars. She is releasing the next book in the series in 2026, so I'm really excited about that. But this one is definitely underhyped because it is still indie published. She just published it, and I feel like not a lot of people know about this book yet, so this definitely deserves more hype. But I have faith that she will grow as an author and with her fan base, so I think within the next few years she's gonna be a well-known romance author. Okay, an overhyped book that you read this year. Okay, let me think. My number 1 overhyped book is Binding 13, but I did read that last year, so I need to find another one. I think I'm gonna say Wild Reference by Rebecca Ross. This was the first book that I read by her. I haven't read The Fine Rivals yet, and this is the prequel to the series, but you can actually read it before you read The Fine Rivals, which is what I've been told. This book, I don't know, it was super hyped. I heard a lot of people loved it, so I was going in with not extremely high expectations, but good expectations that I was going to like it at least. But it just took too long. The middle part was too long. I felt like the characters kept walking in circles and going through the same stuff over and over again, but they weren't any wiser. I just thought it was quite frustrating to read about these characters, and I also didn't necessarily like the world that it was set in, which is the reason that I'm not going to read The Fine Rivals, probably because that is set in the same world. This wasn't my book, I think. Isn't my series. I do want to try other series by her. I think she has a few more series. This one definitely isn't it for me. The next question is a book you loved in the moment, but you don't think about now. That does sometimes happen with me. Just went through all of my 5-star and there's only one. I still think about it, but if I read it now, I wouldn't probably give it 5 stars. And that's Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I really wanted to read this series because I have Throne of the Fallen on my bookshelf, which is the sequel series, and I needed to read Kingdom of the Wicked first. And I did really like it at the time because it is so different from other fantasy series, because it is actually set in Sicily, in Italy. And I really, really liked the Italian heritage and the Italian influence in the book. So that made me really like it when I read it. But I think looking back, it was maybe a little overly complicated and it could have been easier to read. And also the female main character did make some really stupid decisions that, yeah, just don't add up. Looking back on it, I did read the second book and I had the same with that one. Super entertaining, but also she was just a bit naive and I think it could have been better. Next question, a book you can't stop recommending. Well, first of all, I think it is obvious by now. I mentioned this in so many of my recent videos. Language of Dragons. Anyone? This one definitely. And also, I think A Fate Forged in Fire is still very underrated because I still haven't seen that many people talk about it at Book Talk, for example, or not as should be, because this is a really good book by Hazel McBride. It was published this year, also a debut, but it is traditionally published. And this book is also, this is everything you want in a romantasy. Female rage, a strong female character, magic, animal companions. And they can also have dragons as companions in this specific world or this area, because this world has 5 areas. And Hazel McBride's plan is to write a duology for every single area. So at the end of the big series, we will have 10 books from 5 duologies, and this is the first book, so there's another book coming next year, gonna be a duology together with this one, and they have dragons in this specific area, so love that. True enemies to lovers. Yeah, the characters were amazing. The female main character is also queer. She dates both men and women. Some of the other characters were also queer, so I really like that. Super easy to read. Lots of tension. So I feel like this is also a book that needs to be talked about more often, and was also a 5-star for me this year. Then a book that surprised me, and that is actually a book that isn't released yet. I got the chance to read an R copy, but The Summer of Second Chances by K.L. Walther. I hadn't read any of her books before. I do have Summer of Broken Rules on my TBR card, but I still need to read that. But I got the chance to read the arc of The Summer of Second Chances, which is going to release in May of 2026. And I didn't have any big expectations. I just thought it was going to be a fun romance read, but it was actually so much stronger than I thought. It is also about grief, and specifically about grieving people that are still alive but that are also kind of gone, for example, because of dementia. and just grieving your place in a family and family in general. And I just really thought this book was so incredibly beautiful, so it made me cry. And I really liked it at the same time. So it was very fulfilling and I just thought it was amazing. So this definitely surprised me because I didn't have any expectations going into the book. A new favorite author is the next question, and I think an author that I started reading this year is Hannah Bonham Young. I hadn't read any of her books before 2025 and I did read 3 of her books now, Out on a Limb, Out of the Woods, and then People Watching. And the first 2 I loved so much. People Watching not so much, but the other 2 were just outstanding to me and both made me cry. And yeah, the way she writes very complicated matters and identity struggles and mental health struggles, puts it into books that are so easy to read and navigate these problems so understandably. I just love that. And because of that, she is now very high up on my list of favorite authors. Not my absolute favorite, but yeah, I do want to read all of her books. I still have Next to You, Next of Kin. Those are still on my TBR card. And I just want to read all of her books. Next question is favorite book cover. And sorry, but I am going to point this out. Fairy Loot edition of A Language of Dragons. This one I also think is so stunning. A Faged Forged in Fire by Hazel McBride. But I also thought this cover is extremely beautiful. I got this in London. This is the Waterstones exclusive, I think, with this gorgeous sprayed edge. I honestly think that this is my favorite sprayed edge I've ever seen. But I do think that this book... No, I did give it 4 stars. It was enjoyable, but not as hyped as other people. I liked it, but it wasn't a 5-star for me. But this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the prettiest covers that I do have. Next question is best audiobook, but confession, I actually don't listen to audiobooks that much. Like only sometimes. And then it's always a book that I also read physically. Yeah, just not a big audiobook girly. My mind just drifts off when I listen to an audiobook. So don't really have an answer to that question. The longest and shortest book you read. Shortest is definitely an extra chapter from Abby Jimenez, The Situationship, from characters from the Part of Your World series. But that, I did count it as a novella, but it is basically an extra chapter. So that is definitely the shortest. And the longest, The Striker, maybe? The Striker by Anna Huang is quite thick. Oh, and I just read the second book in the Zodiac Academy series. That is also quite big, 500 something pages. It's probably either one of those books. A book you would reread. Oh, you guys, so many. Language of Dragons, definitely. And also maybe Silver Elite. I did read Silver Elite this year. And the next book is gonna come out next year. I would sort of reread that because I know that it is so easy to read. So it would probably only take me a couple of days. Ooh, Serpent and the Wings of Night. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Maybe. I did read that a couple of months ago and really liked it. Gave it 5 stars, which some of my friends were really happy with because they've been begging me before that to read it. I really liked that, but I don't fully remember it and sometimes I confuse it with other books in my mind. So I would reread that just to have it on top of mind before I read the next one. So maybe that's a good reread. And I am currently rereading the Shadow and Bone. No, not Shadow and Bone. From Blood and Ash. So close. From Blood and Ashery from Jennifer Armentrout. I read the first 3 books a couple years ago and I just reread the first and second book. And I want to reread the third, but yeah, maybe I'm gonna continue my reread. So that's another one that I want to reread, but not sure I'm going to actually do it. That's a different thing. Oh, a book you wish you've gotten to this year. So a book that I haven't read this year, I haven't gotten around to, but that I wish I did. Well, I just made my 26 books in 2026 list, and there are some books on it that I do have on my TBR card, and one of them is Blood of Hercules. One of my friends loved that book, said she laughed out loud, and I do really want to read it, but I just somehow never pick it up. It's never like on the top of my priority list, but that is actually a book that I want to read soon. So I think probably I will read that in 2026. And I also really want to start the Cassandra Clare universe, the Shadowhunters and all her other books universes, but I waited because I asked for this gorgeous edition for Christmas and I did get it. So I'm definitely going to start that soon. Haven't gotten around to it, but I'm sure that I will pick this up within a few months because I want it My collection is pretty. I want all the other editions. That's it. I just really want to read it. A book you started but didn't finish before the end of the year. Well, that's actually still open because I do have 2.5 more days to read, and I have to start a new book. I'm not currently in the middle of something, just finished a book last night, but I don't know which book that is going to be. I still have to decide, so I'm not sure, but I probably won't finish my next read in this year, but I don't know which one it will be. A book that I wish I read already is Arcana Academy though, because that is my friend book club book for January, and I haven't read it yet, but I did get an edition a few days ago, so I finally have to start reading it. So that also probably will be one of my first reads in 2026. And then last question is 2026 reading goal. But the thing is, I'm not going to set a very high reading goal. I'm going to set my reading goal on a level that I know I'm going to finish anyway. So I just set it to 50 books. This year it was set to 55. But I decided to no longer put myself through really high reading goals because I realized last year when I did do that, my goal was 100 or 110 books, and I just got that. And I realized because of that goal and because I was pushing myself to actually get it, I chose different books than the books I really wanted to read. I just picked books that were shorter. It made me realize that is not actually how I want to read. I want to read because it is my hobby and not because I have to reach a specific goal. So I decided to no longer do high reading goals and just set it quite low for my doing, which I know I will be reaching anyway. So I set it to 50 books. But I do have a sort of reading goal, and that is to read books quicker after they come out, and to be in on the hype more. So basically read books closer to their release date. Yeah, that's just my goal for next year, and just have fun with reading again and read lots of cute books and 5-star reads and just have fun with it. Basically that. It's a hobby. It should be fun, and that's all I care about, basically. Alright, and that's it then. This was my year of reading in 2025. I loved it, like I said before, and I'm super excited for another year of reading. Let me know in the comments what was your favorite book of 2025, or an honorable mention, or a book that just you have to talk about. Just let me know what was a book that comes to mind that was one of your favorites in 2025. Let me know in the comments, and if you did that, then please give me a thumbs up as well on this video, and make sure you're subscribed because 2026 is going to be another amazing year on YouTube here. I'm really excited to make more videos, and yeah, it's just gonna be an amazing year. With that being said, this is where I'm going to end the video. I hope to see you very soon with the next video. Bye guys. Doei doei!